I read through the H-1B proclamation, and it doesn't really do what I think people think it does. So the first 3/4 of it is basically word salad and legalese, where it describes all the waste, fraud, and abuse that nobody is ever going to go to jail for, or even get so much as a strongly worded email from the Secretary of State about all of the waste, fraud, and abuse of the program, because that laws, remember, only apply to poor people, not to rich tech oligarchs who abuse all this stuff. None of these people get in trouble for any of that. So that's what the first 3/4 of this thing says. The last bit of it, it doesn't apply to anybody that is currently in country, which means that nothing, because I mean, like, if it applied to every H-1B currently in country, tech bros right now would be freaking out. They would be screaming. They would be funding Antifa to go scream racism, fascism, etc. You know, go burn cities down. That's exactly what they would be funding right now, because they would have to go and write checks for tens of millions of dollars to keep all of their slaves. Excuse me, inexpensive labor from the land of cheap geniuses. Or they could just pack up their whole operation and move it to the land of cheap geniuses, where they probably belong. If that's really, if Americans are so horrible, why don't you just get your shit and get out? You know. And by the way, all of you tech bros, just turn in your passports, and then when you decide you want to come back to the U.S., you can pay up $10 million in physical gold. In other words, you need to go to the open market and buy that gold. Otherwise, you don't get your citizenship back. It'd be like that. So that'd be how I would do something. But, you know, I'm not exactly a nice guy. Anyway, my point is that after reading through it, it really doesn't do quite as much as people think it does. Yes, it adds a $100,000 fee, and like, okay, but it also has an exemption in there that I'm sure will totally not be abused by the Secretary of State, you know, if by companies that show up and give the Orange Messiah another couple $1 million for his, you know, grand Donald Trump memorial ballroom that he's building. So you'll forgive my incredulousness on this, but I don't think this does what people think it's going to do. And keep in mind also, it only addresses the one program very specifically, and it says it over and over and over. It's addressing the H-1B program only. It is not addressing the H-2Bs. It is not addressing the EB-5s. It is not addressing all of these other gimmicks and special effects type programs that exist out there to continue to flood people. It doesn't address all of the migration from countries that are supposedly, these are people screaming about how they're refugees, even though Mexico and Canada respectively are not at war. So there's my analysis of the H-1B so-called proclamation, and I think it's pretty much crap.